Okay, let's talk about that feeling. That deep, just overwhelming sense of being completely and utterly stuck. You know the one I'm talking about, where every little task feels like climbing a mountain, and your motivation has just packed its bags and left. We're going to dive into this because what if that feeling isn't actually the end of the road?
Just take a second with this question. It really hits home, doesn't it? So many of us are taught to just power through, to be the strong one, to handle everything. But what happens when the very things we rely on to be strong just start to run out?
And this is the key idea right here. What if we stop looking at that wall of exhaustion as some kind of personal failure and start seeing it as a signpost, a specific location on a map? Because, once you know where you are, you can start to figure out how you got there, and more importantly, where to go next.
That's so true. Nobody just wakes up one morning and is suddenly burned out. It's more like a slow fade, right? A gradual draining of your energy, your enthusiasm, your emotional reserves. It kind of creeps up on you, usually disguised as just being super busy or a little stressed.
So here it is. Here's that map. This is the 5-stage journey. We kick things off with high-functioning stress. Then we move into waning enthusiasm. Then we hit the crash. After that, it's emotional numbness. And finally, habitual burnout. Let's really break down how this all plays out, starting with those first couple of stages that are so easy to miss.
So here's what's so sneaky about these first 2 stages. On the outside, everything probably looks totally fine. I mean, you're still hitting your deadlines, you're getting stuff done, but on the inside, you're paying a way higher price for it. You're running on fumes, that spark you used to have is fading, and you might notice a little bit of cynicism creeping in. You start to feel like you're doing it all by yourself.
And that feeling leads us right here to the tipping point. This is the most critical and honestly the most confusing part of the whole process. Stage 3. This is where the game totally changes.
Yep, this is when the whole system just can't take it anymore. And it's not a gentle glide to a stop, it's a full-on slam on the brakes kind of halt.
And this is exactly what that crash feels like from the inside. It's that deep feeling of being stuck in quicksand. The simplest things, like answering an email or figuring out what's for dinner, suddenly feel impossible. You might feel this huge emptiness, or maybe just nothing at all. And the only thing you really want to do is just pull the covers over your head and disappear.
And this is the question that just haunts people when they're in this stage. We beat ourselves up, right? We think, I'm just being lazy, or I've lost my drive, or there must be something fundamentally wrong with me. But what if that's not the real story at all?
Okay, look at this slide, because this is the whole point. On the left, that's our harsh inner critic. We feel lazy, unmotivated, broken. But on the right, that's the biological reality. Your nervous system is in total overload. It's triggered a protective freeze response. It's essentially performed a full system shutdown to stop you from causing more damage.
I love this metaphor because it makes it all make sense. Think about your body's stress system like the electrical panel in your house. If you plug in way too many things at once and run them all full blast, what happens? A circuit breaker flips. The power shuts off, not because the system is broken, but to protect the whole house from catching on fire. Well, that's exactly what your body is doing.
Just let that sink in for a minute. That feeling of being stuck, that total shutdown, it isn't you failing. It's your biology succeeding at its most important job, keeping you safe from a complete and total system meltdown. It's a feature, not a bug.
Now, if we don't recognize stage 3 for what it is, a giant warning sign, we risk sliding down in the stages 4 and 5. And this is where that protective numbness just becomes your new normal, where you feel completely detached from everything and everyone, and burnout just becomes this chronic, everyday state of being.
So, look, if you take just one thing away today, please let it be this. That feeling of being frozen in place. It's not a character flaw. It's not a moral failure. It is a biological survival mechanism. It is your body hitting the emergency brake because the engine has been redlining for way, way too long.
And that leaves us with this really powerful question to think about. Once we stop blaming ourselves and start seeing the real problem, the overload, the whole focus shifts. It's not about fixing you anymore. It's about changing the conditions that are overloading the system to begin with. So what needs to be unplugged?